In this lecture, we will discuss the lymphatic system and its role in immunity. Part 1, we will look at lymphatic drainage and lymph nodes. The lymphatic system consists of a group of cells and chemicals that travel in lymph vessels and organs and glands that synthesize them. Lymph vessels collect and carry away excess fluid from the interstitial space, and they are eventually returned to the blood. Interstitial space is the space between the cells in the body and where the capillaries drop off nutrients, drop off oxygen, and then carry the waste. So that type of space is the interstitial space. Lymph system also helps defend our body against certain diseases. The lymphatic pathway starts around the area of the capillaries, and they merge into larger vessels and eventually empty into the veins in the thoracic cavity. So lymph vessels are these ones that start at the capillary level and they bring back the excess fluid back into the blood system. And along these lymph vessels, we also have certain nodes that are called the lymph, and we will discuss what these are in this lecture. So if we look at a schematic, we talked about how blood is brought through the arterioles, comes to the capillaries, and here we have the exchange of material forming the capillary bed that forms the venules and brings it back to the vein. Lymph vessels start at this interstitial space around the capillaries, and again, if there is any excess fluid that's in this space, it will be picked up also by the lymphatic vessels, and then that is being picked up by the lymphatic vessels. It will go through these items known as the lymph nodes, and they will be brought back into the vein that will then bring it back to the heart. So any excess fluid will be brought back this way. A few things to know. The fluid that is flowing through these lymph vessels are called lymph. And this is an open circuit. It's not a closed circuit like the blood, the vascular system. It begins at the capillary level and comes to the vein that brings it back to the heart. And lymph flows only in one direction, always towards the heart. So looking at the lymph system again, it's very interconnected with the capillary system that is part of the vascular system. And as we can see, we have lymph throughout the body, and they have these nodes called the lymph nodes. They are like sampling centers. They sample the fluid that goes through them, make sure there is no pathogens, there is no foreign objects, there is nothing that's foreign to the body. And if it is the case, it helps allow immune cells to come there and start some actions, like make sure that everything that is flowing through the blood vessels are a part of our body, that there are no foreign objects. Again, looking at the lymphatic pathway, this is how the lymph flows through the lymph vessels. We have the lymphatic capillaries that starts all around the body. Then they have these afferent vessels. They go to the lymph nodes. They have the efferent. Efferent only means vessels that comes towards is afferent, goes away is efferent. They form the lymphatic trunks, collecting ducts, and eventually the vein that they all connect to is called the subclavian vein. So they connect and bring all these lymph into the subclavian vein. Lymph is tissue fluid that enters the lymphatic capillary. Lymph formation depends on the tissue fluid formation. So any excess fluid in the interstitial space will be picked up by the lymphatic system. Usually this tissue fluid formation is made up of water, any dissolved substances that leave the blood capillaries by filtration and diffusion. Tissue fluid is very similar to blood plasma, except it does not contain the large plasma proteins, We discussed several plasma proteins that are within the blood vessels that help maintain the tonicity, help maintain the pressure needed to keep the blood within the cells. They are not found in this fluid that's in the interstitial space. Apart from that, it's very similar to blood plasma. Lymph nodes generally occur in chains along the path of larger lymphatic vessels. They are not found in the central nervous system, but they are found in major connection areas in the cervical region, the thoracic region, axillary, and different regions of the body. So, where these blood vessels come and connect or divide, branch out, you get these lymph nodes as testing centers. And here's a schematic of major locations of lymph nodes. Students are not expected to know these different locations, but know that all these capillaries, lymph capillaries come, and at these major branching centers or so, you'll get these lymph nodes where there will be the sampling center. This also brings to a good point when there is a certain infection or when there is some sort of an inflammation where these lymph nodes pick up something, immune cells come there, you get an inflammation or a swelling of these lymph nodes. And at those certain times, they are palpable. You can feel them by using your hand or your finger, and that's kind of what you have if you have a throat infection. You'll be able to feel these enlarged lymph nodes. It's also found in the axillary region, which will be act as the sampling centers. So lymphatic drainage of the breast. So again, just like the different regions of the body, lymph will sample, will bring all the excess fluid and bring it back to these lymph vessels, sample through these lymph nodes, and then brought back to the veins. This is important even when it comes to a certain staging of breast cancer. These, if the breast cancer is spread, it is beyond this local region, these lymph vessels are able to identify them, and that is why when physicians look to see if the cancer has spread, they will sample these lymph nodes to identify if there are any abnormal or cancer cells. So lymphatic drainage of the breast or the mammary region uh, comes to this axilla region. In this axilla region, there are several lymph nodes, and these are the ones that will be sampled to see if there are any spread of the cancer. So, meaning if there is any spread into the blood vessels, they will also be picked up by these lymph nodes. We will discuss the function of the lymph vessels and also their role in immunity in the next part of this lecture.